Hello and welcome to Diabetes Connections in the News. I'm Stacey Sims, and these are the top diabetes stories and headlines of the past 7 days. As always, I will link up my sources in the Facebook comments where we are live. We are also live on YouTube and in the show notes at diabetes-connections.com when this airs as a podcast. In the News is brought to you by the world's worst diabetes mom, real life stories of raising a child with diabetes. Bit of breaking news here. We just found out today we won a pretty big deal prize. American Book Fest announced that the world's worst diabetes mom is the winner of their best new nonfiction category. Huge thanks to the judges and to Spark Publications. How about that? You can find the book. It's my book, if that's not clear, in paperback on Kindle or as an audiobook, all at Amazon.com. Our top story this week: a stamp of professional approval for the do it yourself, we are not waiting movement. Over 40 doctors, legal experts, and other healthcare professionals published a consensus statement in The Lancet, one of the most prestigious and respected medical journals. The authors conclude, although we do not suggest that open source AID systems be universally recommended over commercial options, strong ethical reasons support the use of open source systems with safety and effectiveness data derived from real world evidence. Essentially, they're saying it's time for the medical industry to take these methods seriously and to establish some standards and protocols to help further access and safe use. Stem cell therapy for type 1 moving forward. CRISPR Therapeutics and ViaCyte announcing approval for a clinical trial application. We've covered this before, and I've talked to ViaCyte on the podcast. They've been moving forward with stem cell research, and you may know CRISPR as a gene editing platform. The idea is that together, these companies could find a functional cure for type 1. This is a phase 1 clinical trial designed to look at safety and efficacy. They expect to start enrolling patients by the end of the year. Another new study suggests a lack of a specific molecule in red blood cells may be the root cause of vascular problems in people with type 2. Red blood cells are important for a lot of reasons, one of which is maintaining what's called cardiovascular equilibrium. This is partly achieved through the production of nitric oxide. It's a problem in people with type 2, and these researchers speculate it's because they have much less of something called microRNA 210 than those without diabetes. Interestingly, blood sugar control through medication appeared to cause no major improvement here. It did not affect the red blood cells. Good news for pregnant coffee lovers. Consuming a low amount of caffeine during pregnancy could help to reduce gestational diabetes. Now, this is one of those health issues that, seems to change every year, right? Drink more coffee, drink less coffee. This study says if you're already drinking coffee or any caffeine, about 2 cups a day is just fine and may reduce your risk of gestational diabetes. If you're not already a coffee drinker, there is really no reason to start. There were no statistically significant differences in blood pressure or hypertension between those who did and did not drink caffeine during pregnancy. The government of Japan announced this week that a company there has developed, quote, the world's first blood glucose level sensor that requires no blood sampling. The sensor uses cutting edge laser technology with a very bright infrared laser. They say it will enable anybody to hold a fingertip over its light for about 5 seconds to easily measure their blood glucose levels. If you can see the photo, that little circle on the tower kind of looks like an Alexa or an Echo. And I hope I didn't activate yours there, sorry. But that circle is where you would put your finger. The company is now working on mass production. Not a lot of info here, but the website says 2023 is their goal for launch. Scotland has become the world's first country to be Scotland has become the world's first country to begin routine testing of C-peptide levels in patients with type 1 diabetes. A couple of goals here, they say. First, to identify people who have retained robust natural insulin production. And second, to see some who might not have type 1 at all. C-peptide is a substance that's created as a byproduct of natural insulin production. Preliminary study here looked at about 850 people with type 1 and found that about 13% had more than what's thought to be the usual expectation of insulin production. They also found that 5.1 were reclassified to type 2 diabetes, 1.6 reclassified to monogenetic diabetes, and many of those people didn't need to take insulin anymore. One quick note: I've seen this article floating around which says that half the people in this study did not have type 1. That is not the case at all. The only thing I can think of is that somebody misread the 5.1% reclassified to type 2 and misread it as 51%, but it is a tiny number. It's only 5.1%. Many more people are misdiagnosed as having type 2 when they actually have LADA or type 1. And finally, something really unique for Diabetes Month, a ski company has created a custom set with the pattern of the chemical composition of insulin. I'm going to show it here to you and I'll put it in the Facebook group if you're just listening to the podcast. Lauren Salko is a cross racer who lives with type 1. Insulin Ski's worked with her to design, there's the pattern, and they're donating all the profits to children with diabetes. It is the limited edition Ripstick 90W ski. If you're shopping, Lauren Salko has an eye on next year's Olympics, and we will be watching. Quick reminder, the podcast that's out this week is all about less stress for the holidays. It's an Ask the D Mom. Guys, I got an amazing message from a mom who said she, quote, cried tears of relief listening to it. I mean, I remember how tough it is at first, but really, we can make great memories and worry less. Let the D Moms help. And that is this week's long format episode. You can listen whenever you get your podcasts. If you're listening to this on a podcast app, just go back one episode. And that is in the news for this week. I got to tell you, next week, it is Thanksgiving here in the US. I am not planning on having a Wednesday live episode. I reserve the right to do it if there is some kind of breaking news, if something gets FDA approval or we really have to share something. But for your planning purposes, we're going to take a week off from the live. We will have a regular long format podcast episode next week. If you like these episodes, please share it with somebody. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you back here soon.